Hey everybody, this here is a beautiful day in New Ross, Nova Scotia. We've had probably 3 or 4 weeks of the most beautiful spring we ever get. We usually don't get a spring near that nice. But anyway, this is not about that. We were just out today and got the raspberry canes transplanted. The old bed that they were in was getting grown up a little too much. So we had a new spot dug up and the raspberry canes moved over. Strawberries are starting to look good. Everybody else is talking about trees budding and blooming and even having things growing onto them. People out planting potatoes. Well, in New Ross, Nova Scotia, we're way behind that. We won't plant potatoes for another month and a half yet, maybe even 2 months. And if you see by the buds on the trees, they're not even in silver tip phase. But anyway, this is not about that. Professor Kent is one of the apple growers that I talked to. I think he's from Michigan. And we were talking online the other night about propagating apple trees. Well, here are the 3 rootstocks that I put in the ground that I'm going to turn into more and more apple trees, hopefully. These here, what I'm planning on doing is we're going to cut them off ground level, and this spring new shoots will come up from the ground. I'll mound sawdust and maybe a little sawdust peat moss together in a container around them, keep it buried in, and then what I plan on doing is putting bud grafting into them in August, and then the following spring, while they're still dormant, I'll remove the container, take off all the loose fill, and cut all the little rootstocks that come up from it off. You'll find a really good description on this on Cuffle, I think it's called Cuffle Creek Nursery. And he has a really good talk on propagating apple trees. But anyway, what I'm going to do here is an experiment. My question was when to cut these off. These are still in dormant stage. So what I'm going to do, just as for a fun experiment, I'm going to cut one off now, and in 3 weeks time I'm going to come in and the trees will be starting to bud in 3 weeks time, and then I'm going to cut that one off. 3 weeks later the trees will start to be coming out into leaf, and then I'm going to cut that one off. And by August or September of this year, we'll see which mound layer did better. So here goes. I'm going to reach in, take this off ground level. If you see my clippers there, soil level, I have a bit of mulch around here, so soil level is about right there. We're going to come in and we're going to, as much as this hurts, we're going to cut that right off. So there's my rootstock. Oh, I should mention, all of my rootstock are MM111s, and I think they had a designation of ELMA 111. So that's all my rootstock. I have clay loam soil, and MM111 does really well in wet clay soil, and around here our soil can lay water in the field for a month, 2 months at a time sometimes, so it's definitely wet soil. It's not wet year round, but it definitely can be wet in the fall and the spring. So there's that fella gone. There's his stump growing, and in 3 weeks time I'm going to cut the next one. 3 weeks time I'm going to cut the next one, and we'll see what happens. Just as a side note, when I bench grafted my apple trees last year, I bench grafted the rootstocks, then planted them out. I had all the tops I cut off, I threw them in a bucket of water, and I tried to stick them in the ground and grow them. And I had 16 of them in the ground, and none of them took except for this one. And I have no idea whether that's going to grow out or not, but it did start to grow some leaves last summer. There's one over there growing, but I don't think he He stayed growing some in the summer and stayed alive, but I don't think he wintered very well. So we'll see in a couple of weeks whether that one grows. And if this one here, I start to see some growth out on this one, I'm going to graft into this one this spring. So that's just an experiment on propagating apple trees. We'll see how it goes. Have a great one.